My sister's son punched the housewarming cake I bought and said, "This cake is as ugly as your car." The whole tables laughed. I didn't say a word. That evening, Mom texted, "We've chosen to sever all contact. Stay away forever. My sister liked it." I replied, removing my name from every loan tomorrow. By midnight, the group chat flooded. Sto missed calls, I didn't cry. After I read that message, "Sever all contact," liked by my sister, the tears just stopped. They dried up. I felt this deep, cold stillness settle over me, the kind of quiet you feel when a terrible storm has finally passed and you're left standing in the wreckage. They thought they were punishing me. They thought they were banishing me, the ungrateful daughter. They didn't realize they had just handed me the key. I opened my laptop. The screen lit up, and I pulled up my monthly budget spreadsheet. I'm organized. I have to be. I stared at the 2 lines I'd looked at with resentment for years. Parents' mortgage assist $400. Brittany's SUV payment $640. I did the math in my head. $400 a month for 3 years. $640 a month for 2. I'd given them $29,760. I thought about the trip to Florida they took last month. The pictures were all over Facebook, my mother sipping a drink, Brittany and Tyler on the beach. They work hard, my mom had said at the party. They deserve it. I paid for that trip. I paid for the very party where my graduation cake was shoved onto the patio stones. I paid for the privilege of being humiliated. For years I told myself this was just being the responsible one. I thought my compliance was strength, but it wasn't. It was an invisible chain. Psychologists call it learned helplessness. When you grow up in a system where every time you try to stand up for yourself, you're punished, called too sensitive or dramatic, you eventually learn to stop trying. You just accept the pain. You accept the role of the family scapegoat because it's easier than fighting a battle you know you'll lose. I wasn't being responsible. I was surviving. But that text message, "Sever all contact," that wasn't just an insult. It was a legal document. It was proof, written by them, that the relationship was broken. The chain was still there, but they had just handed me the bolt cutters. My anger became very cold, very clear. I opened a new email. To Elaine Carter, Robert Carter, Brittany Carter. Subject: financial arrangements. I didn't write, "Dear Mom." I didn't mention the cake. I didn't mention the years of hurt. I just wrote, "Per your text message requesting to sever all contact, I am respecting your wishes. As of tomorrow morning, I will be formally removing my name from all co-signed loans, including the mortgage on the Idaho property and the auto loan for the SUV. Please make your own arrangements." My finger hovered over the send button for just a second. I thought of Brittany's red heart. I clicked. The email was gone. And almost immediately my phone, which had been silent on the drive home, exploded. It lit up, vibrating so hard on the desk it sounded like an angry bee. Missed call Mom. Missed call Brittany. Missed call Dad. Text message. What does that email mean? Text message. Rachel, call me this instant. Text message. You can't do that. They weren't sorry they hurt me. They were terrified because I was cutting off the money. The panic was just beginning. I watched the phone ring. I didn't pick it up. They weren't calling to apologize. They were calling because the bank had called them. They were angry the money had stopped. I thought back 3 years to the phone call from my mother. Her voice wasn't screaming then. It was wet with practiced tears. Rachel, we're going to lose the house. Your father's hours were cut. We're going to be on the street. I remember I was at my desk at work. I had to mute the call. You're the only one we can ask, she'd whispered. You're the stable one. The stable one? The responsible one? The one who wasn't to screw up? Then I thought about 2 years ago, standing in a car dealership under those terrible fluorescent lights, the smell of new plastic and stale coffee. Brittany was looking at a massive brand new SUV, black, sunroof. The kind of car I would never even look at for myself. Please, Rachel, she'd said, grabbing my arm. I'll pay you back every month, I promise. She had no credit. The bank had laughed at her. My mother stood right behind her, nodding. Family helps, family, honey. So I signed. And she never made a single payment. It's a classic family dynamic. Psychologists even have names for it. They had to have a golden child and a scapegoat. Brittany was the golden child. Her mistakes, her drama, her irresponsibility that just made my parents feel needed. It gave them something to fix. I was the scapegoat, or maybe the responsible one, which is just a nicer word for the same thing. I wasn't there to be loved. I was there to be used. I existed to absorb the family's problems, to be the stable, boring bedrock they could all stand on while they called me cold for not being as fun as Brittany. I looked at the black screen of my phone. That $29,760. It wasn't help. It wasn't support. It was a collar. It was a leash. As long as I was the co-signer, I was financially chained to them. I had to take their calls. I had to listen to their abuse. I had to show up to parties and let them laugh at me because if I didn't, they could ruin my credit. But last night, in their arrogance, they did something they never thought through. They sent that text. We've chosen to sever all contact. They didn't just fire me from the family. They cut their own leash. I went to work. Walking into the office at Green Pulse Tech felt like stepping into a different dimension. It was quiet. It was professional. People were discussing software updates and server capacity, not who was ruining whose life. I sat at my desk, but I couldn't focus. I knew what was coming. My mother wasn't going to stay quiet. Her silence on my phone meant she was being loud somewhere else. I opened my email and wrote a short, careful message to my boss, Lauren Shaw. Subject: personal matter. Hi, Lauren. Just a heads up, a private family issue of mine has unfortunately become public. You may see some rumors about me on social media. I'm not going to comment on them, but I wanted you to be aware. I've learned that boundaries often upset the people who once benefited from my silence. My focus is as always on my work here. Thank you for understanding. I hit send. I felt a small sense of relief, like I'd at least controlled the narrative in this one small part of my life. Lauren's reply came back almost immediately. It was one line. Rachel, thank you for the note. Your professionalism is appreciated. Let me know if you need anything. That was it. No drama, no gossip, just respect. I almost cried. This was what a normal, healthy interaction felt like. The peace lasted until noon. My phone buzzed. It was a text from my friend Megan. Hey, I don't want to upset you, it read, but I think you need to see this. Some old neighbor from Idaho just shared it. I'm so sorry. Below it was a screenshot of a Facebook post. It was from my mother Elaine. She had used an old picture one from a family dinner where she was smiling, looking like the perfect loving matriarch. The post was long. It is with the heaviest heart it began that I have to write this. Sometimes the child you trust the most, the one you give everything to, betrays you in the worst way. Our daughter Rachel has decided to ruin us. Out of spite and jealousy of her sister, she has told terrible lies to the bank and has ruined her parents' credit. I had to sit down. My hands were shaking. We are heartbroken, the post continued. Your father and I may lose our home. We paid for her college. We supported her move to Seattle, and this is how she repays us, by trying to make her family homeless. We are posting this to let our friends and family know the truth. Please pray for us. And please pray for Rachel, that she learns what gratitude and family really mean. I scrolled down, dozens of comments. An old neighbor, Elaine. I am so sorry. I always knew she was a thankless child, so stuck up. A distant aunt. This is horrible. Poor Elaine and Robert. You gave her everything. One of Mom's friends, Brittany, is a wonderful mother. Rachel should be ashamed of herself. Some people never learn gratitude. Comment after comment. Ungrateful, selfish, spoiled, poor Elaine. I felt this hot, sick feeling rise in my throat. Shame. My first instinct was to fight. I wanted to comment, to post my bank statements, to write, "You didn't pay for my college, I paid for your house." But then I stopped. Who was I trying to convince these people? They were my mother's audience. This post wasn't for me. It was a performance for them. My mother was playing the victim, and she needed a villain. I was the villain. The old me would have been destroyed. The new me just felt tired. I wasn't going to fight her on Facebook. I was going to fight her in the real world. I wasn't going to fight them on Facebook. That was their battlefield, a world of illusion and performance. My battlefield was reality. I took a deep breath. I closed the social media app. I picked up the manila folder I had been adding to for months. My armor. Inside was the printout of my mother's text message. We've chosen to sever all contact. Inside were the bank statements, highlighter marking the $640 for the SUV month after month, the $400 for the mortgage. And now I printed the Facebook screenshots and added them to the file. The lies about her paying for my college. The public defamation. I didn't go to my office. I drove straight to Green First Bank. Mr. Reynolds' office was quiet, with a fake plant in the corner and pictures of his kids on his desk. He was a kind man in his 50s, the branch manager who had helped me set up my first checking account when I moved to Seattle. "Rachel," he said, shaking my hand, "it's good to see you. What can I do for you?" My voice didn't shake. I was proud of that. I need to be removed as a co-signer from 2 loans. He nodded. Okay, that can be a very tricky process. Usually the primary borrower has to agree. I don't think they will agree, I said. I opened my folder and laid the papers on his desk. The emails, the bank statements, the text messages, and finally, the Facebook screenshots. I told him everything. I told him about the party, the cake, the text message from that night, and the public post from this morning. He listened. He didn't interrupt. He just nodded, his face growing more serious. When I was finished, he was quiet for a full minute. He folded his hands on his desk. "Rachel," he said, and his voice was firm. "This is not a family disagreement. Based on these documents, this is financial misrepresentation. This is financial abuse." He picked up the printout of my mother's text. "We've chosen to sever all contact. This," he said, tapping the paper, "is our key. They have officially severed the relationship." That text, combined with their failure to make payments and this public defamation, gives us grounds to file an immediate liability dispute. We are not going to ask their permission. He turned to his computer, typed for a few minutes, and printed out 2 forms. "This one is for the mortgage," he said, "and this one is for the auto loan. We are filing a liability dispute based on documented financial abuse and misrepresentation at the time of signing." He handed me a pen, Sign here. I signed my name. Mr. Reynolds took the papers. He picked up a large, heavy rubber stamp. He pressed it onto an ink pad, then onto the first page. Thud. He did it again on the second page. Thud. The sound was soft, but it was the most final sound I had ever heard. It was the sound of a lock clicking open. It was the sound of chains breaking. I let out a breath I felt like I had been holding for 3 years. I gathered the papers, sliding them back into the manila folder. I felt light. I had done the right thing. I had protected myself. "Thank you, Mr. Reynolds," I said, standing up. "I can't tell you what this means." "You did the hard part, Rachel," he said, shaking my hand again. "You take care of yourself." I was halfway to the door when he spoke again. "Wait, just one more second." I turned. He was frowning at his computer screen. "This auto loan for your sister? I'm just reviewing the final agreement." "What about it?" He zoomed in on the screen. "You said you were at the dealership with her when you co-signed." "Yes," I said. 2 years ago. I signed the application and the initial forms." "And is this," he said, turning the monitor toward me, "your signature on the final binding contract?" I leaned in. It was a digital signature. It looked like my name. It looked like my handwriting. But it was just a little too perfect, a little too smooth. There was a confidence in the loop of the R that I didn't have. I don't know," I said honestly. "It was 2 years ago. I signed a lot of papers that day. It looks like mine, but, he said, typing again. He pulled up another screen. "This is your signature from the application you filled out that same day. The one we have on file that you signed right here in the bank last year for your savings account." He put them side by side. They didn't match. The R was different. The L at the end was different. The real one was slightly rushed, a little sharper. The one on the loan contract was a careful, deliberate copy, a forgery. I felt the blood drain from my face. "Mr. Reynolds." He looked grave. "Rachel, your signature on the application gave them the opening, but the signature on the final contract, the one that bound you to the debt. This doesn't look like you signed it." "What does that mean?" "It means," he said, "it's possible someone corrected your signature after you left the dealership. Maybe they needed to add insurance terms you hadn't agreed to or change the interest rate. It's impossible to know for sure without a full investigation." He looked at me, his eyes full of a new kind of pity. "This," he said, "just moved from financial abuse, which is a civil matter, to bank fraud and forgery." Forgery. A crime. It wasn't just that they had manipulated me. It wasn't just that they had used me. One of them, my mother or my sister, had sat down at a desk, looked at my name, and faked my signature to steal from me. This wasn't just a toxic family. This was criminal. That night, I was sitting on my sofa trying to read a book, but the words just blurred. All I could see was that forged signature. My signature. Not my signature. I was trying to process what that meant, that my mother or my sister hadn't just manipulated me. They had committed a crime. Then I heard it. Boom, boom, boom. It wasn't a knock. It was pounding. Someone was hitting my door with their fists. My heart stopped. My whole body went cold. I knew instantly who it was. Boom, boom, boom. "Rachel, open this door. We know you're in there." My mother's voice. "Elaine." It wasn't the sound from the voicemails. This was a shriek. It was echoing in the stairwell of my quiet building. I didn't move. I sat frozen. Boom, boom, boom. Rachel Carter, you open this door right now, or I will break it down. Then another voice, shrill and weeping. You ruined everything. Get out here, you coward. Brittany. They were here. They had flown from Idaho to Seattle. They had found my building. They had gotten inside. My hands were shaking. I put my book down. I crept to the door and looked through the peephole. The fisheye lens showed them distorted and furious. My mother Elaine and my sister Brittany. Their faces were red, streaked with rain and angry tears. They looked like something wild. What did you do? Brittany screamed, her face so close to the door I could see her spit flying. The bank just called. They're going to take my car. My car. You have to fix this. You have to call them and fix this. Rachel, my mother yelled, rattling the doorknob. I will have you evicted. This is family. You don't do this to family. My hand went to the deadbolt. The old me, the me from 4 days ago, wanted to open it. The old me was terrified of this rage. The old me would have done anything to make the yelling stop. I felt the guilt rise up, choking me. They were my family. They were in the hallway. They were hurting. But then I remembered. I remembered the forged signature. I remembered the cake splattering on the patio stones. I remembered my mother's laugh. I remembered Brittany's little red heart liking the message that banished me. They weren't here to apologize. They were here because the money had stopped. My home was my safe place. I pulled my hand back from the lock. I pulled my cell phone from my pocket. My fingers were trembling, but I pressed the numbers. Seattle, 911. What is your emergency? My voice was a raw whisper. Hello, my name is Rachel Carter. There are 2 individuals outside my apartment door. They are pounding on it, screaming and threatening to break it down. They are refusing to leave. Are they armed, ma'am? I don't think so. But they are screaming. I am scared. Do you know them? I closed my eyes. This was the moment. Yes, I whispered. They're my family, but they are trespassing. We are sending an officer, Miss Carter. Stay on the line. Do not open the door. I just stood there breathing, listening to the 911 operator's calm voice in my ear and the screaming from my mother on the other side of the door. It felt like an hour. It was probably 5 minutes. Then, through the peephole, I saw a new figure, a tall police officer standing calm and firm. Ma'am, you need to step away from the door. She's my daughter, my mother shrieked at him. We are just trying to see our daughter. Ma'am, I've been told she doesn't want to see you. You are on private property, and you are causing a disturbance. If you've been asked to leave, you need to leave. You can't make us, Brittany shouted. This is a family matter. This is a trespassing matter, the officer said, his voice perfectly even. You can leave on your own, or you can be escorted out. It's your choice. I watched my mother's face on the little screen. It was a mask of pure, bitter humiliation. She looked at the officer. She looked at my closed, silent door. She knew she had lost. Fine, she hissed. The officer followed them as they walked down the hall. Just before she turned the corner, my mother looked back. Her eyes found the peephole. You're going to regret this, Rachel, she spat. Then they were gone. I sagged against the door, my legs shaking so hard I had to sit down on the floor. I was crying, but not from sadness. It was the terror. It was the release. I had done it. I had held the line. A week later, a thick, cream-colored envelope arrived. It was from Green First Bank. My hands weren't steady as I opened it. It wasn't a lawsuit. It wasn't a summons. It was one single heavy sheet of official paper. Dear Miss Carter, it read, This letter is to confirm that as of May 1st, 2025, you have been fully and legally released from all financial liabilities concerning the joint mortgage account and the vehicle loan account. Our investigation confirmed a release of liability. You are no longer considered a co-signer or responsible party for these debts. I read it once. I sat down on the floor in my entryway and read it again. Fully and legally released. I ran my hand over the paper. It was real. The seal was embossed. It was done. I heard later through a cousin that the foreclosure on the house went through. I heard they came and repossessed Brittany's giant SUV. I didn't feel happy. I just felt quiet. That night I opened my laptop. I went to my budget spreadsheet. I looked at the 2 lines that had defined my life for so long. Parents' mortgage assist, $400. Brittany's SUV payment, $640. My hand was on the mouse. I clicked the first line. I hit the delete key. It vanished. I clicked the second line. I hit the delete key. It was gone. The total at the bottom of my spreadsheet suddenly had an extra $1,040 in it. I stared at that number. I created a new line item in my budget. I titled it My Future. I put the $1,040 into it. This was the real victory. It wasn't about the foreclosure. It wasn't about the repossessed car. The true justice wasn't in their destruction. It was in my construction. I had taken the very money they used as a chain and transformed it into the seed for my new life. I wasn't just getting revenge by tearing them down. I was getting it by building myself up something they never thought I could do. A year passed. The silence was wonderful. I focused on my work. My boss, Lauren, praised my steadiness. What my family called boring, my colleagues called reliable. I was promoted. The My Future account grew. $12,480. I was sitting at a car dealership. My car dealership, not Brittany's. I was signing papers for a new car. A modest car. A safe car. A car that was entirely in my name. As the salesman went to get the keys, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I'm sorry for everything. Brittany. I looked at the message. I thought about the cake splattering on the patio. I thought about her laughter. I thought about her little red heart liking the message that banished me. I looked at the new car keys the salesman was placing in my hand. The old me would have answered. The old me would have seen this as a chance, an opening to finally fix my broken family. The new me just felt a faint, sad peace. I calmly deleted the message. I didn't need her apology. I had my freedom. Sometimes forgiveness isn't about opening the door again to the people who hurt you. Sometimes forgiveness is just locking that door gently, walking away, and never, ever looking back.